Last year, the North Country School, a boarding school in Lake Placid, got a letter in the mail. It was from a guy in Ukraine. He was looking for a place for his younger brother to study. The kid's school had been bombed. Ukrainian people have scattered all over the world this last year, seeking safe harbor from Russia's war against Ukraine. How that letter led to a high school graduation ceremony tomorrow on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Essex County Arts Council, promoting arts and culture through advocacy and grants to artists and organizations. More at EssexCountyArts.org.
Hey, I'm David Summerstein. It's Friday, May 26th. First up, ahead of Memorial Day weekend, firefighters are warning that the risk of wildfires is higher than usual. On Tuesday, there were 2 brush fires in Lewis County, according to the Watertown Daily Times. Both fires were started intentionally and then quickly spun out of control. The annual New York burn ban was in effect until the middle of this month. The Lowville volunteer fire chief told the Times that the burn ban has often been extended in the past if conditions have been very dry, but it wasn't extended this spring, even though there hasn't been much rain. So if you're going to make a fire this weekend, be sure to do so near a water source. Don't leave your fire unattended, and make sure it's completely extinguished before you leave. May is Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples Awareness Month. According to federal statistics, Indigenous women face the highest rates of domestic and sexual violence in the United States. People in Akwesasne held 2 marches earlier this month, one on the Canadian side of the territory, one on the U.S. side. Marjorie Gunyandunge Skidders is the editor of Indian Time newspaper, which covered the marches. She told me the events were a sobering reminder.
Victims of domestic violence or sexual assault or teen violence, stalking, sex trafficking, or those who have gone missing and never found.
Mm-hmm. Disproportionately affects Indigenous people all over North America.
Yes, across the United States and across Canada, both.
What did people do in the marches?
Okay, the first one on the northern side of Akwesasne, they had dedicated and unveiled a red bench in memory of those who have gone missing or who have been murdered. A local artist, Dave Fadden, did an incredible painting which he called The Scream, and it's to give those men and women and girls and boys who have again been murdered or missing or a victim of violence a voice, that they now have a voice. And when you look at this painting, it's just and what his intention of the painting, it's just incredibly moving. And then on the southern side of the Akwesasne, they held it was more like an evening of healing. They had several speakers. They had people doing the round dance. It was really powerful to come together, for everyone to come together and do one huge round dance, and singers, and it was very good. It was a good evening of healing.
And why is it so important to keep those memories of those people alive?
Because it's such a big issue. It's always to bring awareness that we are here to help. We are here to heal. We are here to help you go through this process of how to deal with this. And if you're a victim of that, then Akwesasne has programs to help you with that as well.
Marjorie Gunyandunge Skidders is the editor of Indian Time newspaper, based in Akwesasne. It's graduation season here in the North Country. For one young student, the ceremony tomorrow marks the end of a long chapter. It began on the front lines of the war in Ukraine and brought him to a tiny boarding school in the Adirondacks. Emily Russell brings us his story.
On a cold, dark morning in February of last year, a 14-year-old boy in Kharkiv, Ukraine, got up before the sunrise.
I woke up pretty early in the morning to do my homework, because I just like to do my homework in the morning.
That's Yehor. We're not using his last name to protect his family back home in Ukraine.
And I have heard strange sound which I have never heard before. There were rockets, I could hear rockets.
Russian rockets were bombing his hometown. The war in Ukraine had begun. Yehor and his family fled their home. They spent the next night at his grandmother's house where they thought they'd be safe. But Yehor remembers watching that night as fiery rockets flew over their neighborhood.
I survived this night, but I learned that houses down the street were just destroyed.
Yehor's school was also destroyed. At the time, he was prepping for a national math competition. Math is Yehor's favorite subject. But the war took that away from him, took away his safety and his childhood. So his big brother Dan got to work. He wrote to schools in the U.S. looking for a spot for Yehor.
The moment I got Daniel's letter, it certainly pulled at my heartstrings. We got to find a way to make this happen.
That's Bill Newman, head of admissions at the North Country School, a tiny junior boarding school in Lake Placid. They issued Yehor a student visa, offered him a full ride, and Yehor's friends and family raised money for his plane ticket. On Easter Sunday of last year, Newman drove 5 hours to Boston to pick Yehor up from the airport.
I remember he had his older brother's clothes on, and so we had cuffs folded up to the knee, and so it was obvious we needed to get him to a place where we can get clothing appropriate for the Adirondacks.
It took a lot just to get Yehor out of Ukraine and into school in the States. He's one of more than 1 million young Ukrainians to be displaced by the war. Even after he was settled in at the North Country School, Yehor says it took time for it to feel like a place where he could learn and grow.
In the start, it was really hard because I didn't know any English and I couldn't communicate with people. I couldn't do my homework properly because I just couldn't understand what's going on. But North Country School has offered me many opportunities.
It's a cool spring day, and Yehor is showing me around the school's barn. The North Country School is pretty progressive. Students here help raise sheep and chickens. They later harvest those animals for food. Yehor bends down and picks up a little gray cat. And who's this in your arms?
It's Mercury, his barn cat.
Mercury?
Yeah, he's really a friendly cat. He loves people and animals.
The school's barn manager, Erica Burns, says getting students like Yehor to take care of the animals and to do barn chores, it instills a lot in them.
It teaches kids how to do hard things and how to do things with consistency and how to be responsible. And I think Yehor has also, he's come to this conclusion a lot faster than a lot of people is, love and appreciation for the barn.
Yehor loves riding horses and just spending time with the barn animals. Growing up in the second largest city in Ukraine, Yehor says there's no way he could have imagined his life today in rural upstate New York.
I have never thought that I would change water for the sheep, give them grain, or milk the goat, because I have done milking the goat and it's pretty hard.
Over the last year, Yehor has proven he can do hard things. He's learned English, taken AP calculus, gone mountain biking.
Also, I have learned how to ski. And Bill Newman was one of my teachers who have taught me this, and it was amazing.
The head of admissions took him to Whiteface, where Yehor says he skied black diamond trails. He's also had a host family take him on vacation, and he spent time with a few other Ukrainians in the Lake Placid area. As the war in Ukraine rages on, Yehor says he tries not to think about it too much. It's too hard.
I miss my family. My mother came visit me during the summer, but I have not seen my father. I have not seen my grandparents, which is really sad.
But somehow, as a 15-year-old, he's found a way to keep going. He's got a full ride to a boarding high school in New York, where he'll start this fall. He then wants to go to college in the U.S. Eventually, though, Yehor says he does want to move back home to Ukraine.
I hope that I can start anti-war organization. Also, I'm thinking to volunteer to help other global issues such as climate change.
Yehor has big, grand plans. But first, he's focused on summer. After he graduates from the North Country School, Yehor hopes to travel back home to Ukraine to visit family, the first time in more than a year. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio, Lake Placid.
You can see photos from Yehor's life in Lake Placid on our website, ncpr.org. And there's a great video of him on our Instagram feed. Check out NCPR on Instagram, done by the great Caitlin Kelly. Really great video. More news there all the time and through the weekend. Music today by Caitlin Scholl and I Am Snow Angel, both from Lake Placid. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.